Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rhode Island Farm Energy Resource Panel. My name is Denny Lex Rodriguez, and I'll just give a brief introduction. I am currently a senior at the University of Rhode Island studying environmental and natural resource economics. I am also an energy fellow, which is why I'm here today helping put this together. I work at the Office of Energy Resources, helping out with the Farm Energy program, and this is an example of that. So I just wanted to give that small introduction, and we can move right along with the panel. So today we're going to be informing farmers of the grant-based programs that are available to them to help them invest in energy efficient and renewable energy, as well as share business strategies from Josh Daly. So without further ado, we're going to begin with Nathan Cleveland, the Programming Services Officer, and he also works at the Office of Energy Resources. He will be going over the farm energy management. Thanks, Nathan.
Great, yeah, thanks very much. And I've got a few slides that Denelex will be pulling up here in a minute. But what we really want to talk to you today about from our perspective is to just give you an overview sort of about managing energy use on your farm, considering and investing in renewable energy technologies, and some of the different grant and financial opportunities that are available to folks in furtherance of those projects. We'll hear from a couple of folks who have been able to take advantage of some of those opportunities in the past. So that'll be a good opportunity to hear directly from some folks who've been able to implement some of these technologies. But I wanted to just make sure to introduce myself and then give all of you sort of an overview about kind of how those things work. So thanks for pulling those up, Denny. If you could just go ahead to the next slide. One of the key things that I want folks to take away from this, if you take away nothing else, is just sort of who I am and what my contact information is. So there's my contact information on the screen. Again, my name is Nathan Cleveland. I'm the Programming Services Officer at the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources. And one of my responsibilities is working with the agricultural community in Rhode Island around energy management. So this is, sort of the key piece of information. If you take away nothing else, this is how you get in touch with me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about any of the different grant opportunities, or put you in touch with different folks that might help you move your project along if I myself am not able to do that. So wanted to make sure to put this up front and center so everyone sort of knew how to reach me at all times if you have any questions about anything farm energy related today or anywhere in the future. You can go ahead to the next slide. Thanks. So we sort of view energy management as a process and a journey, rather than sort of an individual single action. So the sort of journey of energy management that I have laid out here, if you can go back one slide actually, sorry, one more. Yeah, so basically it's a sort of a 5-step process as we've outlined it. And our office is happy to sort of support you all the way through with any of the steps in this process that I will discuss in a little bit more detail in a minute. But essentially every step feeds one into another. And as you sort of understand your energy usage and costs, and then begin to identify different opportunities for investment, you can then take some of those upgrade steps, save energy, save money, and then if you want to undertake renewables projects, you've got a lower energy footprint, so you may be able to put in a smaller and more affordable system. And then, one of the key things for us is always making sure that you celebrate and share those successes, with us and with everyone else. We've done some written profiles of some of the folks that have come through the programs in the past, sort of highlighting their successes and how they've been able to use the savings generated from energy management to reinvest and grow their businesses. And, we're happy to work with any of you on sharing and celebrating those successes as you move forward. You can go to the next slide. So step one is just sort of understanding your energy usage and costs at a base level. One way to do that, if you're technologically inclined, the Environmental Protection Agency has a piece of software that's free to use online called Portfolio Manager. That allows you to track your energy use over time, and National Grid can actually enable automatic uploading of your utility bill data to this software program, so that you can sort of track that over time, get a baseline of where your usage is at, and also really see where those energy investments start to pay off as your energy usage changes over time, once you start enabling and taking some energy efficiency upgrade steps. At the most basic level, though, this is just about kind of looking at your energy bills and getting a sense of how much you're spending on energy and how much you're using, and how that might be changing over time. So seasonal costs, weather-related costs, specific equipment or buildings on your property that might be driving higher energy use than others. And this is sort of the first step into figuring out, how to then cut down those costs and make improvements. Next slide, please. So one of the best ways to figure out kind of what the best opportunities to save energy are is to get an energy audit. And the Farm Energy Efficiency Program can hook you up with National Grid to get a free energy audit for your property. They'll send a specialist out to your farm who sort of specializes in the agricultural sector to walk through your property with you and really identify all of the energy saving opportunities that might be there at your property. So this is sort of things that you might normally think about, like LED lighting or insulation, but also, upgrading your equipment, more efficient fans or motors and drives, other things like that you may not think of off the bat, but that would save significant energy. And one of the benefits of this is not only is it free to get the audit, but it's no obligation, and they'll give you a report that not only outlines all of the different energy saving opportunities that you have available to you, but also what incentives National Grid is offering for some of those measures. And so that's the first step to sort of really seeing what those next opportunities are and how much you can save taking advantage of just the National Grid incentives. You can also have energy audits done on your home. You don't have to do it just on your commercial property. So National Grid offers that same service for your home as well. And there are also other programs focusing on things like appliances and electronics that allow you to invest in more efficient equipment and generate savings for things. And actually, one of them is refrigerator recycling. That's pretty popular. And that's a good way to, environmentally friendly remove an old refrigerator that you might not be using, get a rebate from that from National Grid. But these financing opportunities that they're highlighting in this report, that's just the first step. And there are some other grant and financing opportunities that I'll talk about a little bit later, which you can also take advantage of to further reduce those costs for these upgrades. Next slide, please. So once you've implemented some energy efficiency measures on your property, that's going to save you energy and save you money. And then if you're interested in pursuing renewable energy like solar, you've now reduced the amount of energy that your property is using, and that may allow you to size a smaller and somewhat more cost-effective renewable solution to offset even more of your energy usage. As I mentioned, there are other incentive programs that not only can provide grant and financing opportunities for energy efficiency, but for renewable energy as well. I'll talk about most of those in more detail in a minute. One of the interesting ones that I'll just touch on now is something called commercial PACE. It's property assessed clean energy. This is an opportunity where it allows eligible commercial facilities to finance up to 100% of energy efficiency or renewable energy improvements. That's tied to the property assessment itself. This isn't available in all Rhode Island municipalities. That's something your local municipality would have to opt into if you wanted to participate. This is run in conjunction with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. So if you want more information on that, you can either talk to me or talk to the Infrastructure Bank folks, and they'd be happy to talk to you about that particular program. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned at the outset, sharing success and sort of celebrating your journey once you've done this stuff, I think is really important and something we want to be able to help promote within the community and across the state. One example of that is Legends Creek Farm. They did both energy efficiency upgrades and a renewable energy project that saved them significant energy and money that they were able to reinvest in their business. Our office did a short video profile sort of that story with them last year. That's available on our office's YouTube page, which is linked here on the screen. And if you have a couple of minutes, I recommend checking that out. It's a really good story about taking advantage of all of these programs and financing opportunities and really using that to sort of grow and develop your business through reinvestment of those savings. So if any of you end up taking on efficiency projects or renewables projects and are interested in working with us to share those through either a short video or we've done written profiles of many of the other participants as well, we would love to talk to you about that and help share your success. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that there are additional funding opportunities available outside of those utility incentives that'll show up on your energy audit report that you get from National Grid after you get the energy audit. One of them is the Rhode Island Agricultural Energy Program. This is a competitive grant program that funds both energy efficiency and renewable energy projects, specifically for agricultural producers. For this program, the minimum grant request is $2,500 and the maximum grant request is $20,000. We do have a grant deadline coming up later this month on October 23rd for the next round of that program. This is a program that's run by multiple agencies. So our office works in coordination with the Department of Environmental Management and the Rhode Island Resource Conservation and Development Area Council to put this program on. As I said at the outset, if you have questions about any of these programs that I'll be talking about, you can always reach out to me. But on each of the slides talking about these programs, I'll also list one of the key contacts for that particular program that you could also speak to directly if you have additional questions. So for this program, that's Joanne, and her contact information is on the screen, phone, email, etc. But this is one of the financing opportunities that we really encourage people to check out if they're doing energy efficiency or renewable energy. Unlike some of the other programs that are available, this doesn't have strict cost matching requirements like some of the other federally funded ones do. So it's a really flexible opportunity for you to take advantage of additional grant funding and sort of blend together some of the grant funding streams to really reduce your overall project costs. One thing I will mention about this program, as well as all of the other programs, the vast majority of them require an energy audit to be eligible to apply for the grant. What that means for this one in particular is that you need to at least have contacted National Grid and scheduled an audit with them to come out and review your facility. It doesn't have to have taken place by the time you apply. So if you're looking at this here in October and are eyeing that grant deadline in a couple of weeks, you can still put an application together as long as you've reached out to National Grid and gotten in touch with them about scheduling an audit, and you can just note that on the application. The last thing I'll mention about this is since our office works directly on this program, myself or Denalex or anyone from our office is always happy to help you as you put together an application for this program. You need to put together a few pieces of information about your property and your project. Particularly on the energy efficiency side, we're happy to help you with that. If you're doing a renewable energy project, the good news there is most of the work required in the application, your solar developer is able to provide for you. Next slide, please. So one of the other financing streams and funding streams that we want people to be aware of is the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Energy for America program, or REAP. So this is another grant program that has a grant deadline coming up at the end of October as well. A lot of the same information that you would use for the agricultural energy program application is the same type of stuff they'd be looking for with this grant program. This grant also covers energy efficiency or renewable energy projects. The keynote here is that the grant amount is up to 25% of your total project costs. So you can't be awarded a grant that exceeds 25% of what your total project cost is through this opportunity, but you can blend it with other funding streams like the Agriculture Energy Program grant and utility incentives to really bring down your costs there. Again, key contact is here on the screen for this program. That's going to be Jonathan Burns. He coordinates everything in the Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island territories. Here on the screen, it's listing a Massachusetts office. They do also have a Rhode Island office that he can come meet folks at if that's of interest. So if you have further questions, again, reach out to Jonathan directly or feel free to get in touch with me and we can talk you through that grant opportunity as well. Next slide, please. And then the next one I want to talk about is another Department of Agricultural offering. This is through the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So they have the Agricultural Energy Management Plan program that they run. And this provides financial support for both energy efficiency measures and environmental quality improvement practices for agricultural facilities. The applications for this program are generally taken on a rolling basis, and the funding for this kind of varies by project. This opportunity is slightly different in that in working with NRCS on this, you would come up with a multi-year strategy for agricultural energy management that's specific to your property and sort of what your business goals are. And then they would support you in the different milestones that you identify with them sort of through that process, and you would get funding as you hit different milestones that you kind of put together with them through this energy management plan. There's 2 different contacts for this program depending on where you're located in Rhode Island. So there's a Northern Rhode Island field office, and then the rest of Rhode Island is covered by the Eastern and Southern Rhode Island field office. But again, you can reach out to them directly or get in touch with our office if you have questions about this program. It's just yet another opportunity to sort of blend funding together to reduce your project costs. And you can go ahead to the next slide. The last one I want to talk about is the Renewable Energy Fund. This is obviously specific to renewable energy specifically. This is a competitive grant funding opportunity for energy projects across Rhode Island, both small scale and commercial scale projects. So not specific to the agricultural sector, and sort of which block of funding you apply for is going to be based on the size of your project. So the grants there are awarded based on the rated DC capacity of your project. And again, this is something that solar developers in the state are very aware of and would help you put an application forward on if you are doing a renewable energy project. The next funding deadlines for these programs for both the small scale and the commercial scale are November 16th of this year. And you'll note that it says at 9 a.m. there. This is one of the more competitive grant funding opportunities in the state. And so it's important that if you're considering this, you make sure your renewable energy developer has your application ready to go that morning, right at 9 a.m., as these blocks of funding often fill up, within a couple of hours or a day or two. So it is very imperative that if that's something you're interested in, please make sure that they're prepared to submit on that deadline. And they have multiple funding blocks usually throughout the course of a year. So if the fall one here doesn't work out for you, generally there'll be another opportunity, a little bit further in the future. The key contact for this program is Annie Ratanisim. She's working out of the Rhode Island Commerce Office. But again, our office is always happy to work with you on this as well. But this is another important funding opportunity for renewable energy projects specifically. And I think one of the key takeaways that I just want to highlight here before I wrap up is that you're typically able to blend several of these funding opportunities that I've just covered together to really reduce the cost of your project. We've had folks get funding from both the Renewable Energy Fund and from the REAP grant and from the Agricultural Energy Program, all in service of their renewable projects, or in the case of efficiency, blending two or three of the others together to really reduce those project costs. And our office, as I said, is happy to work with you on sort of coordinating those applications and making sure you have the materials that you need to successfully access these funds. It's really important for us that we help everyone understand what the range of opportunities for getting grants to support energy efficiency and renewable energy projects are, and that we're doing our part to make sure you're able to access those grant programs and really drive down those costs for you as much as possible, so that you can maximize your savings and then hopefully reinvest that and help grow your businesses through those savings. So that is sort of the overview of the sort of farm energy management landscape in Rhode Island, some of the opportunities that are available to folks considering either energy efficiency or renewable energy projects. And as I said at the outset, if you have any questions about any of these projects or programs, I am happy to talk to you in depth about those and either provide the resources you need myself or connect you with someone who can, to make sure that you get the information you need and you can move your projects forward in an efficient and timely way. So I think that'll wrap it up for me. And I'll turn it back over to you, Denalex, to move forward with the rest of the panel, and happy to take questions at any time.
Thank you, Nathan. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions for Nathan, you can go ahead and type them in the question and answer box. Like you said, he can go in detail if you need any resources through his email, but if you have any questions now, he will answer those questions at the end of the panel. So I recommend you type them in there. And if you have any trouble finding that, that's going to be on the bottom panel of your screen. So now we will welcome Martha Neal from Windmist Farm.
I'm here. I don't know where it went. Are you there?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a beautiful picture. I don't know who took that for you, but so that's why we're called Windmist. We farm in Jamestown. We have a little over 40 acres. We are a diversified livestock farm. We do Belted Galloway cattle, Katahdin sheep, layer hens, pastured pigs. No pigs in the pasture right now because they're all in the freezer. Have been selling from the farm for about 12 years, but have been farming for many, many more than that. It's my husband, myself, and my youngest daughter. We have been thrilled to have this solar project put up for lots of reasons. I'll get to that as we go. It basically started when we had the incentive. Well, years ago we thought about doing it and looked into it, and it was a little cost prohibitive, so we didn't do it at that point. But 2 summers ago, I think it was, Jamestown decided to do a Solarize Jamestown movement, and they had chosen Newport Solar as their project or company that they would work with. And I'd been to a meeting about that. At that point, we had an NRCS grant to do an energy audit through NSAVE. And we're a little frustrated with the energy audit because we had said over and over again, we don't want to just change light bulbs. I run 2 walk-in freezers, a walk-in cooler, 5 chest freezers, lots of refrigerators, and other various equipment. And changing light bulbs didn't seem as though it was going to impact our energy needs at all. So the audit took months. I'm not sure why. And the end result was change your light bulbs. And so very frustrated with that whole thing. But the good part about it was that NRCS covered it in one of our grants, and we had that energy audit in hand. So when we approached Newport Solar to do our our house and our farm are on separate meters. So we were able to start with the house project, which Newport Solar was spot on. They knew exactly what to come in and do and so on and so forth. We ended up doing a couple of ground mount systems for the house. That's a whole nother project. And then when it came to the farm project, they said, you know, and I had been to NRCS workshops on some of these programs that are available. So I was aware of them. And then I have to admit that Joanne Pacheco through the Rhode Island Farm Energy newsletter was very instrumental in moving us forward. So I had a pretty good idea that there was grant money available. And then when I started to look into it, I realized there was quite a bit of grant money available. And so gratefully, with Newport Solar's basically estimate of what our project would cost and how it would go forward, I was able to piece together both or all three of the grants as far as the funding goes, with the Rhode Island Ag Energy Grant, the REAP grant, and the REEF grant. It gets very confusing. I highly recommend having folders to put all of the paperwork in so that you can keep them all straight. But everyone was so helpful in putting this paperwork together. The Rhode Island Ag Energy, Nathan, I don't think your group was involved in it at the time when I was applying. I basically dealt with Paul Dolan and Joanne Pacheco. But as you said, qualified for up to $20,000 with that one. With the USDA Rural Energy for America program, with the REAP grant, and Jonathan Burns couldn't have been more helpful. He was wonderful. I did meet with him in Warwick a couple of times. The one thing I would add with that, because that's a federal program, you do need to qualify. You have to have a DUNS number, and then you have to have a SAM registration, which is simply the System for Award Management. And that's something that you had to have in place to go ahead with that grant. And again, qualified for the full amount there for $20,000. And then finally, we had the Renewable Energy Fund grant, and through the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation, which was a percentage of our project. So our project was over $80,000, but qualified for over $60,000 of grant money to bridge the gap there. And especially because these grants don't come in right away, we were able to take out an equity line through Farm Credit East, which farmers probably know and use, and got a very good interest rate on that. So they helped to pay for the project once it was done. And then as the grant money came back in, I was able to start paying the equity line off. And obviously we have a little bit left because the grants didn't cover everything. We have been very glad to have it. I actually have the figures on what we have saved over the last, I guess it's been almost a year, or a little over a year now that we've been doing the project. And actually one of the things that I do get, which was set up through Newport Solar, was a monthly energy production report. And it's always fun to look at, because not only does it tell you how many megawatts your system has produced, but how the equivalent of how many trees you've saved and then your carbon offset for the month. And so it's pretty satisfying to see that it is making a significant difference to the environment as well as our bottom line. So can't say we've saved any money at this point, but in the long term, we definitely will save money with the project, and couldn't have been happier with the whole thing.
Thank you, Martha. So if you have any questions for Martha, please drop them in the question and answer as well. And we'll go over all of those questions at the end of the panel. So now to welcome Joshua Daly. He's the director at the RI Small Business Development Center.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This has already been very informative, so I appreciate both the invitation and all of the information. So I am Josh Daly with the Small Business Development Center. So I just want to give a little bit of information about us, and then I think we're asked here to share. It's kind of crazy times, if you haven't noticed, and so we're a resource, and want to talk also about how some farm businesses have adapted to these crazy times and done some really cool stuff. So I've invited Pat McNiff from Pat's Pastured, who will share some more of what he's been up to and his work with the SBDC as well. So, so just a quick intro to us, and then I'll pass it over to Pat. So we are a kind of partnership between the U.S. Small Business Administration and the University of Rhode Island and the state of Rhode Island. So, so we provide no-cost, confidential business counseling and assistance to any small business in the state of Rhode Island. So no cost, never a bill, and confidential, never a time we talk about what we work with you or even the fact that you work with us unless you give us your permission. And we have a full-time and part-time staff of business counselors all around the state. These days we do most things virtually, but we are all around the state. And we help people almost any industry, certainly any farm business. The only real restrictions, we're federally funded, and so anything that's not federally legal is not something we can work on. But otherwise, we can work with virtually any business in the state, and it's on a variety of different topics. We work with startups and existing businesses. We work on business planning and all the related things around that, industry and market research. We don't do any financing ourselves as an organization, but we work with a number of different organizations that provide funding or financing. And we've worked with a number of farm and ag businesses on that. We also work on marketing, digital marketing, sales and marketing plans, getting on, setting up websites, social media presence, e-commerce, all of that kind of stuff. Among a number of other things. So really, we're kind of soup to nuts for small businesses, helping them start, grow, prosper, and that's true for the farm space as well. So I won't talk any more about that. Just want you to know that we're a resource for you, and you can go to our website, which is risbdc.org. So risbdc.org. And find more about us, and you can sign up, again, free, confidential. And so I'll pass it on to Pat, because Pat's done some work with us and wanted to sort of highlight the great things that he's been up to and what he's been able to do in these crazy times. So, Pat, take it away.
Great, thanks for having me. It's great to be on a panel with everybody. I see Martha all the time, so it's like good to see her in a whole new way. So yeah, my name is Pat McNiff. My farm is in. We're actually in 3 towns. We're in East Greenwich, North Kingstown, and Exeter. And our farm is. We lease all of our farmland because farmland is expensive in Rhode Island, and so all of our land we lease. Our home farm, which is pictured here, is actually owned by the East Greenwich Land Trust, which is a great resource for us in terms of providing affordable farmland, so we could farm in Rhode Island. And we, like Martha, we have very similar businesses. We do grass-fed beef, pastured pork, pastured chicken, turkey. We have laying hens, free-range laying hens, and free-range ducks. And we do all those things. We sell through kind of a combination of a lot of retail and wholesale business, our retail and wholesale business. We've always been more retail focused, which especially during COVID has been a really great thing. A year before COVID hit, we had just started a home delivery program, and since that point, it's grown. It grew 100+% after March. So, and I'll talk about a little bit how we've worked with SBDC on that. But it's been a great business for us. We have a small young family here, and so it's a really family-run business. And we do a lot of work with farmers markets. We sell, like I said, we do home delivery. We do. We have a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture, which is a subscription where people can subscribe and get a certain amount of months of meat. And now, since COVID hit, we've kind of added a lot of other farmers and food artisans products through what we sell as well. And this time of year, we're also selling a lot of free-range Thanksgiving turkeys. So we have about 450 Thanksgiving turkeys we do that people order through our website. Working with SBDC has been great. We kind of took advantage of a lot of the opportunities they offered us for technology, helping us with technology work, and met with a number of different businesses around the state that helped us think through how technology can would improve our kind of online stores and online selling, which again, through all this has been really crucial. So they were able to kind of put us in touch with other technology people around the state to help solve our issues, because we don't have millions of dollars to dedicate to a website and to online sales, but they really helped to kind of enhance what we were already doing and solve some of our sticky issues that we had, and just strategize on what we could do to do things better, which was great. We worked with Jamie from Aperture there, and it was really helpful for us. And in terms of the Ag Energy program, we have been taking advantage of this program since the beginning. We started with doing an audit, and then an energy audit, and then we actually upgraded. Our first projects were actually not solar projects, but upgrading and putting in energy efficient refrigeration, because as Martha said, we have a lot of refrigeration. We have tons and tons of refrigeration, and that is probably our biggest energy sink. And so what we were able to do was put in 2 new energy efficient walk-in coolers that use less energy and were more efficient. After that, we actually are in phase 3 of a solar program. Unfortunately, we didn't have the capital to kind of capitalize the whole project to take in all of our electricity. And so we had to stage it. And so we're staging it little bit by little bit, using Ag Energy money and REAP money. And we're now at phase 3 of that project. And like Martha, I like looking, we have an online portal which we can see how much energy and how many trees we've saved too. So it's kind of nice or how many trees we planted. So we can kind of track how we're doing as a program. We worked with Sunwatt Energy, of Sunwatt Solar, as our installer. And kind of, as Nathan said, they were so helpful in kind of putting together all the packages and handing you the application to say, read through it and understand it and sign it, and we'll help put it in. So that work has worked really great with them. And we've installed ground mount systems on our farm, mainly because we have a historic house, as you can see kind of in the picture. So we couldn't put solar panels on the house, even that it is a south-facing building. But and we wanted to kind of lower the impact kind of on the landscape. So we put on ground mount units. And since unfortunately we don't own our property, we need to have units that we could, if we ever decided to move on and hopefully find another farm or something that we owned, we could pick those up. And so we worked with the land trust to put those out there and really kind of educate the people who come to our farm and visit. And we use it also as an educational source for the kids that come to our camp and to field trips and stuff that we run here as well.
Thanks, Pat. So I did have a question for you. How did you hear about the solar developer that you used?
Well, we had heard about them from another farmer who would use them on a system, Robin Hollow Farm over in Saunderstown. And then we take part in the winter farmers market, and every week indoors, their offices in the Hope Artiste Village up in Pawtucket. So I'd like, not only did they tell me they worked great, but I had passed by their offices every week, every Saturday. So it kind of reinforced it, I guess. And then they just have, again, like I said, worked really well with us and just provided a lot of support to apply for the grants and to put things in. So, and they also, at the time, those ground mount units were kind of, the types they put in were kind of new to the industry. Most of the ground mount units before, which you actually showed a picture of earlier, were on concrete blocks and pretty heavy duty setups. These ones have a foot that's kind of, they use a wire with heavy gauge wire that gets drilled into the ground and holds the mounting unit to the ground, which was new at the time. And so that was great too for what we were doing.
Thank you. And I'm just going to take a look at the questions here and ask you all a few questions. So, Josh, just a question for you. What is one strategy that you would recommend to the agricultural community in Rhode Island looking to diversify or expand their customer base?
That's a really good question. We've seen a number of folks shift towards, this sort of, e-commerce or online, some way of sort of connecting with customers in a different way. And that's true for farm businesses as much as it is for any other business. If you have some direct contact with your customers, although these days, now more and more we can interact in person, it's important to build up your ability to connect online. Seen folks do kind of move towards this concierge approach, like really trying to talk with your customers and get to know exactly what they need. If you have the time and the energy to be able to do that, it's sometimes an advantage that you can have over the big guys, right? You can have that personal touch. So I think those pieces of just, whatever it is, whether it's through e-commerce, whether it's through social media, email, a number of different tools, it's how can you stay connected with your customers, because they're getting food somewhere, right? And if you can be reminding them, staying in touch, showing them what you can do, you can win out on that. So that's one thing for sure.
Thanks, Josh. And this is just a question for both Pat and Martha. What is a recommendation that you would make to someone who is considering a solar project for their farm?
Do it.
Yeah.
Good, that one was an easy one, right?
Well, I kind of think too, definitely just do it. And also just find a good provider. I mean, Martha uses Newport Solar. We use Sunwatt. I think those are two really good ones in the state. We're not like getting paid endorsements or anything, but they've worked really well, and they're going to help you figure out your systems and what you need to do better than anything. So, and then do what works for you, best for you. Like, we pushed really hard to get the system that would work best for our situation because we don't own our farm. So, but I think those are good resources. The solar companies know what they're doing better than we do. And we don't have the time to figure all this out. So, yeah.
That's what I would say, reputable provider.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you both. And, I think that just speaks to the fact that, you should communicate with your colleagues on things like that. The two of you have obviously had success with solar installations using two different providers. So, your friends or your neighbors have probably either considered this or done this. And I think those recommendations often go a long way. Our office does keep a list on our website of registered providers in the state who we know have done work. That's by no means a recommendation, but if you're struggling to find a place to start looking for names of companies, that's a place to sort of start making some calls and doing your due diligence for developers as well.
Yeah, Nathan's office was really helpful for us when we first just having conversations on what could work. And Joanne, like Martha had mentioned, was really helpful as well. And I should just also clarify, and Martha's the same way, all this energy we're producing is just for farm use. We're not selling back energy to the grid or anything. This is solely for farm use, and only can be used, the funding for the ag energy can only be used for farm use. It's not a sell back kind of program. So just to be clear, because it sometimes gets confused with agriculture.
Net metering, yep.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, Pat. Well, I have asked all of the questions here.
I have a quick follow-up actually that I just thought of after listening to the conversation here. Pat, I just was curious about if you could expand a little bit more on your relationship with the land trust. I know there are a lot of folks who also work with land trusts on their property, and if you could just talk a little bit about that relationship, particularly having to kind of work with them to install the solar project on your facilities. I think that would be useful.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very lucky. Our land trust has changed a little bit since, but when we brought that to them, I think their first concerns were like, they were seeing these farms turn into solar big installations, that it was for our use only, which was very important to them, that we had an education component around it to make sure people kind of could learn why we're doing it and not just, putting panels over our whole farm. And what it was doing in terms of, with working with the kids that would come to our farm and to learn more about that side of things. and we worked, the solar installer had to work with the building inspector and everything, and the electrical inspector to make everything work. So it worked really well. But at the first conversations were a little like, oh, it's not going to be, what are you trying to do? So just explaining that it is for farm use, that it is, we're only, right now, we're not even using it. All of our farm use isn't being taken up with it. So that was the conversation. I would say that would be the same conversation on leased land with anybody, whether it's a land trust or a private owner. And again, the systems are movable if they had to be, if you ever, you have to have a long-term lease, but if you ever had to, so that's helpful as well.
Great, thanks. I think it's just important to make those differentiation points because, it's a little bit of a different conversation when you have to involve, either a land trust or a private landowner into the process as well. And you want to make sure that you don't get too far down the road without them kind of knowing what's going on.
Right. And Sunwatt did come to one of our meetings as well, and were willing to kind of talk, answer all the questions so they could be very clear. So. Yeah,
terrific. And one other thing I was just curious about as you were talking was, you said you were doing a CSA and that you started to kind of build in some products from other farmers into that CSA. Was that something that you had been intending to do all along, or was that sort of an opportunity that you kind of seized upon sort of in the unique nature of where we find ourselves in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I think what would happen was actually one of our friends who is an oyster farmer came to us who did mostly wholesale oyster. His business went from, hundreds and hundreds of oysters a week to none once the restaurants all closed. And he said, is there any way we could sell through your online store? And so we kind of really did at first to help some of our farmer friends stay in business, kind of have an outlet, not stay in business, but have an outlet for their products that they had lost. And we had already had a site set up, so it was pretty quick and easy. And now kind of we've developed it to be a little more omnivores, kind of, like a little bit of everything from cheese to seafood to our meats to other people's meat. And I think that's really, it's nice to have a local source to, they're all things my family wants to eat and we love to eat and we support. And so I'm kind of, hopefully our trusted customers then feel like they're trusted sources as well. I know Martha does a lot of that herself through What's Good and Farm Fresh. There's a lot of great organizations that are doing that in the state. And our farm, we're just doing it as a way to kind of help our customers and help the community that we're part of. And we've also kind of been trying to also raise money through our customer base for the Rhode Island Food Bank and for helping people who can't necessarily afford some of the products that we're offering, but really need help with food being supported through the food bank. And they're a great resource.
Terrific. Thanks.
Yep.
I think that's really a really cool story and a good way for the community to sort of pull together and support each other. Josh, I had a quick question for you. And I would also then throw it out to Martha and Pat as well. Just what do you think a business being able to advertise itself as being, powered by 100% renewable energy or powered by X% clean energy. How do you think that would resonate with customers? And is that something that could be a marketing angle for folks to consider?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think certainly you see that folks who are in the market for local food, have certain values around why they want local food and there's a number of different things, but one of those things is often less energy intensive, better for the environment, and so it lines right up in terms of a value proposition. So yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. And then, obviously from the other side, as Pat talked about, one of the biggest costs is energy in terms of farming a lot of times. So if you can do both of those things, if you can get a little boost for the good of your brand, doing something good, but then also save some money yourself, that's a win-win.
It was fun yesterday. We have my nephew does the hard pressed cider company and cider and donuts here on the weekends this time of the year, and the line has been very long. And I was walking by and there was a mother and her 12-year-old daughter who was kind of craning her neck. And I said, what are you looking at? Well, she was looking at my solar panels. So they had to ask me about our solar system. And I said, yes, I have to give a talk on a panel tomorrow. Ha ha, she said.
That's great.
It does interest people.
Yeah, and I think the more we can kind of, I will say it's a little sad to see all these pieces of land being converted into ground mount systems, and there's a lot of things going on, like in Georgia at White Oaks Farm pastures and stuff like that, and even our farm where animals are grazing underneath those panels rather than just being kind of dead zones. And I think farming and solar can work in cohabitation with some really good planning and thought, especially with grazing animals in that. And our farm, we graze our ducks underneath it. And I think those are some places that I hope in the future, the solar energy that's put on big open fields thinks more about those kind of things. White Oaks pasture down there has a couple thousand acres of solar panels that they're grazing chickens and ducks and sheep underneath. And so you're stacking, great, energy efficiencies and renewable energies with sustainable agriculture. And I think that's important.
But being on the state Rhode Island Ag Land Preservation Commission, we're having a terrible conflict between preserving ag land with the solar companies coming in and trying to take some of these open fields with prime agricultural soil. So we need to be careful.
Right.
So.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that that's an important place for some thought and discussion about how to maximize all outcomes using the land for more than just singular use.
Right.
I do not have any other surprise questions for folks. Danilex, anything that you wanted to throw out to the group before we wrap?
Yeah, no, thank you for your questions, Nathan. I think that everyone really learned something from them, so thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know in the audience that if you do have any more questions, that Nathan's information was up, and I can put that up on the screen again just in case, so you can contact him.
Yes, please email me early and often. Happy to talk about any and all aspects of farm energy, renewables, efficiency, etc. So do not hesitate to be in touch with me, and I'm happy to talk anytime and connect you with anyone that would be helpful as we work through projects together.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan. So I just want to give everyone a thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight today. And I hope that everyone learned something here today, and just contacts Nathan or Joanne or any of the other resources that we have listed here.
Yeah, thanks everyone very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.